Hey there guys, and welcome back. Today we're doing an update for a mod spotlight I did previously. Now, obviously today is not Wednesday. Don't worry, there will be a normal mod spotlight coming out tomorrow, Wednesday. But I wanted to do an update on the Expanded Rocket Payloads mod, and I didn't want that to take up a slot where we could just do a new mod spotlight tomorrow, so we're going to do it today. So I have done a spotlight of this previously, as I just mentioned. However, at the time, I was not super, knowledgeable about the mod. I spent some time looking at it, but it was really complicated, and it was a mod that was very hard to look at without actually playing through it, if that makes sense. But now that we have, myself and Video Game Geek have been doing this playthrough for several months now with it on stream, and I wanted to give you more of an update and deeper explanation of what the mod is. So first off, I want to say that if you are into late game mods at all, like stuff that makes late game more difficult, just more expansive, I would highly recommend this. A lot of you probably know of SpaceX, made by Lord Couture. These two are kind of similar, but have some differences. Now, SpaceX basically has a bunch of really late game research and late game expensive items you have to make, and then launch into space. And it has a certain amount you need to do. So it gives you more goals, is what SpaceX does. But currently, you can't actually use any of that stuff. Like, the stuff you launch, it doesn't really give you anything aside from completing the goal. Now, Locator is reworking it, but Expanded Rocket Payloads has both, basically. It has really expensive research, really expensive items, but these items actually give you things and the ability to do new things in games. So I've unlocked all technology with a command, and I've given myself cheat mode, so this will be easier. And we're on our Expanded Rocket Payloads ERP map here, and basically this entire thing down here is just for ERP stuff that we're building infrastructure for. So it has a whole new tab here, satellites, and basically this has to do almost entirely with launching things in rockets. If you pull up this thing here, you can see we've launched satellites. That's just normal rockets. But we've launched 20 space labs, 8 space telescopes, 1 space shuttle, and 292 orbital solar collectors. Okay, so you will, of course, need to make a lot of normal vanilla rockets. Now, the other thing with this mod is it does not add any new, resources to the game or anything like that. It's, it's not like Bob's or something. It's all based on vanilla items, but they do it in a really interesting way. So there's all these researches. We've done a lot of them. Obviously, unlocked all of them with the command. But all these that you don't recognize as vanilla are obviously ERP researches. So the first one here would basically be the advanced mining. And this comes after, well, this is actually technically the first one. So after you research Rocket Silo, you can get this thing, Improved Advanced Space Program Theory. 2,000 of each, not bad. And then you can unlock this thing, which is your Advanced Assembler. And this is kind of the first step that you're going to have, because then you start unlocking all of this other research for it. Pretty much everything from here down is all ERP research. Okay, so this thing unlocks your Advanced Assembler, and this is just a faster assembler, basically. It's this thing here. So it's bigger. You cannot rotate it, unfortunately, but it's bigger. It has a higher crafting speed of 2 compared to the 1.5 of level 3, and it has way more module slots. It has 6 module slots as well. Okay, so that's this thing, and this is what you'll want to start using later on once you actually manufacture the ERP items. As you can kind of see, we're doing here, and we actually have a circuit build we just made over here using it, which makes an absurd amount of circuits. Because the nice thing about this is you can stick a ton of productivity modules in here, and get 60% prod, and then it's still super fast when you beacon it. But basically, so that's your first step. Now I'm not going to go through every single thing. I don't want this to be a 45-minute mod spotlight, but this will start unlocking all these base parts you need. So these are kind of the ingredients, like your intermediates. And then, there's all this other research. So here's basically the main things here, and then a couple down here. So this thing is an advanced probe you can launch, which I don't think we've launched any of these yet. These give that one resource down. See, it's kind of broken into parts, which makes it very difficult to follow. This thing we haven't really messed with yet. So it's expensive but highly rewarding deep space probe. But then, so these things, so the space telescope Each one of these that you launch gives you one of those buildings you can see down there, that rocket launch products. And that's this thing, okay? And we have quite a few of these placed over in our research base over here, these. And what this does is you can choose what it does. So it can either generate 50 space science packs every 60 seconds, or it can generate satellite data. And the satellite data is what we really want. And this will generate one satellite data every 240 seconds or 4 minutes. And it will just do that forever. Okay? And this is what you use for the late game ERP research, is this satellite data. You can see here, it's used in all these things. And these give you a ton of bonuses. So, artillery shell range, lab research speed, worker robot speed, mining productivity. This one's huge. And then so there's that. And then there's this other research, which is this station data, which I'll show you how to get in a minute. And this is lab productivity, stack inserter bonus, worker robot battery, which is really nice, and then worker robot capacity. Okay, and this stuff is a little bit more difficult to get. You get that via this. So you have to launch these space labs, and you can see we've launched 20 of them, and you get one of those per. Okay, so you launch those up in the satellite in the rocket, and you get that other research. Then we have these things, which can give you the other research, this satellite data directly, but we haven't done this because I think it's better to just launch this and then get the things that automatically generate it, honestly. Okay, and then this is space science. Okay, so that's what this actually gave. So this thing should give, I think, it says 5, but it should be, excuse me, it should be more than that. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. That this thing will give you space science, basically. And then the orbital solar collector, which is what we've launched a lot of, this will give you power. So you launch these, and it gives you these little satellite dish looking doohickeys, which we have over here. They'll give you these, and each one of these will produce 150 megawatts. Okay, you can see all our power is coming from that. And this is really nice because this is kind of like a nice substitution for solar without having to actually lay out, bajillions of solar panels across your map. And it should act, I think, pretty similarly to solar, whereas it's not going to be nearly as performance intensive as nuclear, which is really nice. Okay, and that alert is just that we've launched one. So that's what these give. Now, all these intermediate parts, so that's that stuff. Okay, and then this thing, the ground fabricator, this is kind of your end goal. This is what you're really, really working towards, because this thing is insane. So this ground fabricator will basically give you infinite resources. And before that, I mean, it is overpowered. There's no denying it. But it's absurdly expensive to get. Okay, so if we build one of these, okay, get that, and you just select your recipe. You can do either stone brick, iron plate, copper plate, steel, or uranium. And it will just generate them infinitely. 100 a second, forever. And I know it's really overpowered, but this thing is insanely expensive, and it takes a ton of power. 500 megawatts with nothing, no boosts. You stick speed modules in it, you can't productivity it, so that is a little bit better OP-wise. And it becomes 4 gigawatts. If you fully beacon it, I believe it's slightly over 9 gigawatts that one of these takes. If it's fully modeled and beaconed. And of course the pollution is off the chart, 58,000 pollution. So it's pretty nuts, okay? Now how do you get this and how do you make these other items? So you've seen here these things, and they all kind of take similar stuff, right? It's all these intermediates. And this is where it gets really interesting, guys, because this stuff is expensive. So you'll notice pretty much all of this takes these flight computers, satellite flight computers. Okay, well, these guys are made with basically circuit network stuff, tons of it. 100 of each combinator, 500 red green wire, and a rod control unit per. And then satellite radar, expensive stuff in there. This telescope component, which is 10,000 stone brick, 100 low densities, 100 labs, 2,000 radars, and 10 of these. Then these radio sotope things I can't pronounce are, steel 100 rod control units, and they take 100 uranium fuel cells. The batteries are expensive, 150 accumulators per. These things 200 low density, 1,000 copper wire. And then the solar panels are really expensive too. And you can kind of just see here the price: 200 rocket fuel, 100 of each engine unit, and then this thing 2,000 or 2,200 labs, and then one of all the previous. And that's kind of what goes into these different items. Okay, now if you think that's expensive, that is nothing compared to the ground fabricator. So how do you get the parts for the ground fabricator? Well, on top of these you literally just stick in a rocket, like where you'd put the satellite. But we also have space shuttles. Okay, and these space shuttles are how you launch these other things. So there's different kinds. So there's like a telescope shuttle, a fabricator shuttle, which, as you might guess, is how you get this. You can refurbish a space shuttle and get basically a space shuttle back, or a shuttle hull, I should say. No, you do actually get the space shuttle. You get the space shuttle back, and then some of that other research I was talking about. And then same with a refurbished telescope shuttle and the refurbished fabricator shuttle. So basically what you have to do is you launch these shuttles up. So you have to build the shuttle, and then you launch it up, and then it returns that piece there. You can see that like other thing, the rocket launch products, which is this basically. And then you have to refurbish that to actually get the products you want out. So these things alone are expensive. Now luckily you only really have to do one of these components once. So like space shuttle, you obviously need the shuttle hull. You need a shuttle hull actually for all of this, but you can recycle it and get the shuttle hull back because of the refurbishing. But the shuttle hull is ridiculous. The shuttle hull is 10,000 plastic, 50,000 stone brick, 50 satellite flight computers, 30 of these things, 40 of the batteries, 70 of these satellite buses. Remember, each one takes 200 low densities, 200 satellite communications, and then 50 of these satellite solar arrays. Okay, so that's your shuttle hull. You can see down there the raw resources. It's a lot. It doesn't show the solid resources because those are like in here. It's like another step down. So there's that. Now, the space shuttle, so you take the shuttle hull, and then whatever else the space shuttle needs, the specific shuttle, you launch it up into space, and then you get the returned thing down there, the rocket launch product. So like, let's look at the fabricator one. So you need the shuttle, which I just went over. You need the satellite thrusters, 50 of them, 50 of these things. And then you need one orbital fabricator component, which is nuts. 500 furnaces, 50 oil refineries, tons of filter stacking. So there's 250 of these flight computers, which these are more expensive than you would think. 200 satellite buses, 500 satellite communications, 100 of these advanced assemblers, which take 200 processing units, 20 assembler 3s, 400 concrete, and 400 steel a piece, and inserters. You need 100 of those. And then you need 10 of these autonomous space mining drones, which are these. And these things are not cheap either, as you can see. So that's one of these. So you take this and these other components, and then you build a fabricator shell. You launch it, and you get back this, the purple-ish looking, this thing here. And you stick that in an assembler, and you put in the ingredients, the landed fabricator shuttle, the 5,000 stone brick, 2,000 rocket fuel, another orbital fabricator component, another one on top of the one you put into this, and 20,000 water, and then you get back the fabricator shuttle. So that's why you only have to make one hole, and then I guess you only have to make one orbital fabricator component too, because you get it back. But and then the output is one of these other things, which you can't actually see in the crafting menu, but if you look here, it's what that ground fabricator component. You get one of those per. So basically, and then that's what this takes. So basically, you have to do this whole process 4 times just to get one of these. Okay, and so that's it. And then you use these resources. So here's a mining shuttle. The mining shuttle will basically return huge quantities of iron and copper ore here, as you can see. But so this would give, so you launch this, you get back the landed mining shuttle thing, and you refurbish it, and then you get 10,000 iron ore and 7,500 copper ore, basically. But that's not really, like, you might as well just make a fabricator, because you just get the plate and stuff directly. But if you want to do that, that's an option, obviously. Okay, so that's kind of an overview of the mod. I know this was kind of long, but it's a very in-depth mod. And if you're looking for like a late game challenge, guys, this is it. I mean, this thing is nuts. The amount of things you have to build with this and how expensive it is. You know, we have over 200 hours in this save, and we've only just kind of scratched the surface of being able to launch all this stuff because it's so freaking expensive. You can see here, you know, this is just like a teeny little example of making this stuff, right? So, you know, if you're looking, and you could combine this with SpaceX too if you're just like really insane. I think they would work fine together. And there you go. So Expanded Rocket Payloads, if you're looking for a late game challenge, you know, I highly recommend it. It's not like super complicated. It looks complicated because of how it's like arranged in these menus. But once you start to actually play with it, you understand it better. And yeah, so it's not like Bob's Angels complicated, but it is super expensive. Definitely a challenge. I highly recommend it, guys. Link below to in the description where you can check out the mod portal. And if you have any questions or anything, leave them down below as well. Sorry it was so long, but I did want to kind of give a more in-depth coverage of, you know, the mod. And I believe that'll do it. Until tomorrow, when I do another mod spotlight, I will see you guys later. Take care, and I look forward to seeing you.